Tonight, chaos at the Greater Accra head office of the Electoral Commission as members of the opposition National Democratic Congress in the Weija Gbawe constituency demand their candidate for the constituency is declared winner of the 2024 parliamentary election.
Apply to the elections, let the EC lady come and tell us that this grievous criminal administrative breach should go this direction. It is not captured in any part of the CI. Where in the CI as it stated that when an act of criminality, faking and falsifying election results, and confessing to that, where in the CI does it make provision for that?
Details as the parliamentary candidate for the NDC says at the right time the EC will hear from his quarters. But we have more on this story because the Electoral Commission comes under fresh pressure from the ruling New Patriotic Party, with the party demanding resumption of results collation in some disputed constituencies where it believes its parliamentary candidates were victorious.
It is therefore our expectation that the EC would immediately resume the collation exercise. We implore the National Election Security Task Force to provide adequate security to facilitate peaceful collation under a serene environment. We are also calling on the NDC leadership to rein in on their supporters.
We have more on this particular development here on Top Story, always brought to you by Telecel, connecting energies and holy insecticide spray and coil. Enjoy a holy sleep. Tonight, there was chaos at the headquarters of the Electoral Commission, the head office of the Greater Accra Regional Electoral Commission, as a short while ago, as members of the opposition National Democratic Congress in the Weija Gbawe constituency besieged the office to demand their candidate for the constituency is declared winner of the 2024 parliamentary election. The supporters who threw stones to the headquarters building said they will not leave the area until the EC answers their demand. It had to take the intervention of the police to calm tensions. My colleague James Aveji is at the commission now. He'll be joining us with latest from the office. But before then, my colleague Fostina Sarfo, who covered that particular constituency during the election, joins me to lay the foundation for this particular discussion. Fostina, you were there.
Yes.
How was the collation process in that particular constituency, which the NDC is now contesting?
Well, at the Weija Gbawe collation center, the atmosphere to a large extent was chaotic, Kojo. Now, collation took nearly 48 hours after the close of polls on Saturday, which is 5 p.m. Now, this infuriated the supporters of Felix Odatelamte. He's the NDC parliamentary candidate for Weija Gbawe. Now, the NPP parliamentary candidate for the area, Jerry Ahmed Shaib, was actually calm throughout the process. At some point, the NDC supporters, they took over the collation center, Kojo, because they were upset as to why the EC has delayed close to 48 hours and they still didn't know their fate. And so they took over the collation center. They overpowered the police. It took the military, Kojo, to calm tempers at that collation center. When the EC was almost done with some of the constituencies, which is collating the results, the NDC parliamentary candidate staged a walkout. He and his supporters, they were upset. They said the process had delayed. And they were contesting the results even before the EC had declared. So the EC then, after collating the results, said that the NPP parliamentary candidate, Jerry Ahmed Shaib, was winner for that constituency. They signed the pink sheet along with other contestants in that constituency. But the NDC refused to sign. They are contesting the results in that constituency as we speak, Kojo.
All right. So it means that there were delays on the part of the EC as well.
Yes, and they say, really, they say it's as a result of the collation process. Because of the concerns being raised by individuals who were monitoring the Electoral Commission, they wanted to be sure that the results were certified, the results were going through the right procedure. So when it came to collating the result, they were quite particular about what they were typing in for the EC.
Okay.
And that whole process was quite slow because they had only 2 officials manning the decks as at that time. It took 48 hours, Kojo, before they declared a winner.
All right. So it means that the NDC agent did not sign that declaration form?
No, they didn't.
Interesting.
For the parliamentary, by
yes.
the way, but for the presidency, they did.
Okay, thank you, Fostina, for that. My colleague James Aveji has been at the Commission's headquarters, regional office all day, monitoring how this development has been transpiring, and he joins me on the phone lines with more. James, you are the head office, or the regional head office today. What can you report?
Well, Brace, it has been one of those chaotic situations we've seen in the last few days after the election, where members of the NDC mass up from morning to demand that their candidate is declared winner of the election. Now, if you come to the EC office, even as we speak, there are debris of car ties which have been bent by the political party supporters. A number of ties have been bent there, with stones also on the grounds at the entrance of the EC office. Those are stones members of the party or supporters have been pelting at security officers who try to prevent them from getting access to the EC office. They have been calling, it took the intervention of the security agencies, especially the police, water cannon to disperse the crowd and also actually wash away some of the debris that have been left behind. I've been speaking to a member of the election committee of the NDC in the Greater Accra region, Raymond Gomez, who's been explaining to me why he himself, as well as the candidate and the party supporters, visited the EC regional head office today.
On Wednesday in the night at around 8 p.m. And this is what we chanced upon. This is not hearsay. The EC lady herself confessed that they were making entries. They were putting in totals. As to what they were putting in and why they were putting it in 4 clear days after, nobody knows. But that is an act of criminality. And by that act of criminality, we, by a layman's knowledge, know that the election result declared, so-called declaration, is null and void. If you apply for a school with a fake certificate and the school realizes that your certificate is fake and they revoke that certificate, what have they done to your admission? Your admission is revoked because the basis of your admission is wrong. And that is what has happened in the election in the Weija Gbawe constituency, the parliamentary election. Now, we met with the regional director of the Electoral Commission and put this across to her. We did that verbally and put that on paper to her. For the EC to come out and tell us the steps that they are taking to address this, she has refused to. We agreed with her in the meeting on Friday that we'll be here on Monday for response. From 10 a.m. till now, she has refused to see us.
So that is the director of elections for that particular region. But Kwesi, the parliamentary candidate himself was there as well. What has he been saying?
Well, as far as he is concerned, I mean, the candidate himself, Felix Odate-Lamte, is concerned. He remains winner of that constituency election that happened a few days ago. He believes that the refusal of the EC to meet the director of the Electoral Commission's regional director for the Greater Accra region, to meet them is disrespectful to them as a party and he as a candidate, and promising that they would stand up and fight until the right thing, according to him, is done to them.
On Wednesday in the night at around 8 p.m., I walked out at a point because there are issues with some of the pink sheets. We have pink sheets that has no designation. You don't have any polling station assigned to it. You don't know the presiding officer that signed that pink sheet. No name of any presiding officer. And at the collation, we are supposed to agree on all these things before collation starts. And Madam Abigail, knowing very well what he has connived with the MPP and they are about to do, walked out of the collation room and told us the NDCs that if we agreed on something, we should come back. So
meaning you raised these issues with her and she couldn't provide any justification. What was her exact answer to you when you raised those?
The exact answer to me that if the NDC agrees on something, we should come back. So yes, truly, she walked out, and we also what? Stepped out.
Okay, so what is that thing that you agreed on?
We agreed on what? We didn't agree on anything, and that is why we are telling you that the basis for what? Even the declaration is flawed. Yeah.
For now, what's the next line of action? It seems to me that you haven't had any headway with your discussion with the EC today. What are you doing?
Definitely we'll have a headway. So the discussions have started, and you hear from us. Thank you.
Well, Felix Odate-Lamte is the NDC parliamentary candidate for Weija Gbawe. But still on the issue about, parties disagreeing with the Electoral Commission over the collation of results for parliamentary elections, the governing New Patriotic Party is ramping up pressure on the Electoral Commission to resume collation of results in some constituencies and the recollation of results in other constituencies, despite official declarations favoring the opposition National Democratic Congress. In most of those areas, the NPP claims it has concrete evidence, including its own collated figures and supporting pink sheet showing their candidates as the rightful winners in these constituencies. Listen to a leading member of the NPP, Peter McMenu, during an address earlier.
The point must also be made that the position of the law is that once a proper and regular declaration has been done by the EC, the only remedy available to an aggrieved party, apart from resorting to alternative disputes resolution, ADR, pursuant to Courts Act and ADR Act, is to go to the High Court for redress under Article 99(1) of the 1992 Constitution. However, with the seats that the NPP is contesting, no declaration, properly so-called, was done. So the declaration has not been done. Why do you, who can ask us to go to court? No, it's for the EC to recollate as it did in the year 2004 under Dr. Afrejan at True Constituency in the now Bono East region.
In fact, EC says that there hasn't been any.
But the EC itself has issued a statement,
a public statement,
a press conference that
there's no declaration.
There's no declaration. How does the NDC expect the EC to gazette election results that have not been fully collated and declared? It is pretty obvious that the NDC leadership and their supporters who stormed the collation centers to compel the EC under the threat of death to declare their candidates as winners have labored in vain, because we are a country of rule of law, not rule of men. EC's response: it is not surprising that at a press conference held on Friday, 13 December, the Electoral Commission, through its deputy chair, Mr. Samuel Tete, stated emphatically that there was no declaration of the Ablekuma North, Domekwa Benya, Tema Central, Okaikwe North, Ahafuano North, Ahafuano Southwest, Obuasi East, Techiman South, and Nswam Adwajiri constituency parliamentary results, because the collation was incomplete. Indeed, the Commission has maintained that all purported declaration of parliamentary results made under duress, as was seen in those constituencies, are not in conformity with laid down processes enshrined in CI 127.
Well, the Electoral Commission has been speaking as well on this particular matter, and Deputy Electoral Commission Chairperson Bosman Asari says most of the declarations done in the disputed constituencies are not recognized by the Commission, as some of these constituencies had their results declared without the full complement of entire polling stations in the area.
So I've just indicated that CI 127 Regulation 43, which is about...
No, I know Regulation 43.
Everything is there.
Regulation 43 is just about the returning officer and his duties. My question is, if you ask a director to do it, you ask a director in Damango to do the declaration on what authority, which law? That's what they want to know.
They want to know on which law we...
Because it is the returning officer who has to do it. So why do you ask a director there to do it?
At the time, the returning officer was incapacitated. I think you heard our office in Damango was bent down. The returning officer was incapacitated. We were told he was hospitalized in one of the hospitals in Tamale, and the process had to continue. And it's the same thing we are doing in Tesano. What came to us was that the constituency collation centers were not conducive for the process to continue. So in consultation with the Ghana Police Service and for security purposes, it was agreed that let's come to Tesano where the police can assure us of security.
The accusation you face now, the allegation you face now is that by the processes so far, what the NDC believes has already been declared, you are now overturning them in favor of the NPP, when you could simply say that you could simply repeat what you said to the NDC in 2020, that if any NPP person is aggrieved by the declaration, whether it was done under duress, whether it was done by someone who is not an officer, whatever it is, they must go to court, because court is the only place to resolve that issue. You are not doing that, and therefore you seem to be supporting, aiding the NPP to gain more seats.
I think I made an earlier point that the Electoral Commission as an institution doesn't care who wins presidential, who wins parliamentary. That's not part of our mandate. Our mandate is to ensure that the processes leading to the election of the president, the processes leading to the election of our parliamentarians, they follow what have been specified in law.
I think it's a good time to bring in the Director Legal Directorate of the NDC, Godwin Eduji Tamaklo Esquire, into the discussion. Grateful to you, sir, for agreeing to join us here. Now, first off, briefly on the Weija Gbawe, what's the direction of the party with regards to that particular seat?
Okay, so once again, good evening to your listeners. As you rightly pointed out, in the specific case of Weija Gbawe, the events are unfolding. The revelations that we have seen video recordings of Electoral Commission officers engaging in what appears to be obvious manipulation of electoral results to achieve one particular outcome. We have called for those videos. A team has been put together to study it, and the next appropriate step will be announced. We do not want to, as it were, indicate in the public domain exactly what and how we intend to resolve that problem. But I can tell you that we use every legitimate means available to have that matter conclusively dealt with.
I mean, in the books of the NDC, how many constituencies does the party think it hasn't concluded the processes, and therefore it will push to ensure that it is declared for its candidate because you think you're winning?
Okay, so as you're aware, already 5 or more of those seats have been declared in favor of NDC candidates. 1, Domeko Abenya. The returning officer for Domeko Abenya actually filed the declaration form, and the form was duly witnessed by the candidates or the agents. As you're aware, Obuasi East, a similar thing happened, and in that case, the person who signed the declaration form included the MPP parliamentary candidate and MP for the area. The same applies to Okankwe Central, Ablekuma North, Fantiakwa North. All these seats were declared in favor of the NDC. You are also aware that the Electoral Commission, in a very brazen manner, decided, as it were, to say that they have invalidated the outcome of those elections. Madam Jane Mensah is a lawyer. She appreciates what the law is. CI 127, made on the 1st of July 2020, was made by her. And she appreciates the dictates of that CI 127, that as far as parliamentary election is concerned, there is a returning officer established under Regulation 2 and 3, with the functions spelled out in Regulation 3, and not Jane Mensah or Bosman Asari or any of those people sitting in those ivory towers. None of them whatsoever have the capacity to do that. In fact, per the laws of this country, once the returning officer returns a constituency election outcome, that returning officer becomes frontis officio. That is the law.
Okay. So
let me use your medium to announce that this afternoon, the NDC, leading these 5 candidates whose election have so far been declared, have calls to be issued at the registry of the High Court, a judicial review application in the nature of certiorari, prohibition, mandamus, and injunction against the Electoral Commission. That process has duly been served on the Electoral Commission. So in the coming days, the Electoral Commission would have to explain to the court by which powers, by which authority they can invalidate an election or constituency election that has been validly declared. The level of impunity, the level of lawlessness at the Electoral Commission is mind-boggling. And I think that the time has come for our courts
Energy was
lawless Electoral Commission to order.
Was that a response or a strategy to do away with the pressure the governing NPP is putting on the Electoral Commission to resume collation of these results in the constituencies, among which you mentioned already that your candidates have won?
I am not aware of any pressure coming from the NPP. If that is illegal, is unlawful, it is what it is. I'm not aware. I think that the NPP should appreciate the enormity of defeat they suffered in the December 7th election. Look, if you look at the declaration or what we usually call the pink sheet or the Constituency Declaration 4, you would notice that each one of them at least had the benefit of being signed by the returning officer. The level of double standards of this Electoral Commission is amazing. This is an Electoral Commission that can call an officer to go and declare Samuel Abu-Jinapo as the MP-elect of Damango. The same Electoral Commission has a problem with an officer of the commission declaring an NDC person the candidate or the MP elect. I mean, such level of inconsistency. It's amazing.
I think they explained there that for that of Damango, the officer was incapacitated and therefore they had to allow someone to come in. But let me bring in Evans Nimako here because he's Director of Research and Elections for the NPP. Evans, you heard there that the NDC has already gone to court to try to sort of protect some of the gains that they've made. But with the seat that you're talking about, the law is clear, isn't it, that where the returning officer makes the declaration, you can only go to court and not pressure the EC to resume recollation of already collated results.
Well, thank you very much for having me. Good evening to your listeners. I think for us as New Patriotic Party, the issues are very simple. And for each of these constituencies, there were designated returning officers. I think it will not be out of place that your production will want to take a step and reach out to these individual returning officers. Also, there were police officers or members of the National Election Security Task Force who were assigned to all these collation centers. And so we can really interrogate these issues better. Beyond the two, the police or members of the National Security Task Force, returning officers and their deputies, were also your colleagues who covered all these processes of collation.
And unless you want to run away from the black and white dictates in the CI 127 Regulation 43, when it comes to collation, there are processes. It's not just an event that must happen and is concluded. Yes, it is for the returning officer to assemble all the results from all the polling stations and put them together. And when that is done, Form 1C will have to be developed, which is the collation sheet for the constituency. That brings together all polling station results. And then Form 1D is generated from the Form 1C. The returning officer will then have to generate the Form 1B, which is the rate. Let's find out in all these constituencies whether these were done. Yes, Eduji can be talking to you and making all the nuances you want to. Yes. But, you know, it didn't take the New Patriotic Party too much of a difficulty to say, based on what we've collated in terms of presidential, Mr. Mahama has gotten more votes than Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia. If the NDC know that they have the numbers in these constituencies, let them bring their pin sheets. You see, they can say go to court, but there's time for everything. When results have not been gazetted and you say go to court, they once said you can go to court, and they suffered for it. So for us, we know that the demands you put on the table are legitimate. In fact, the Electoral Commission, by themselves, appreciate that their officers were not allowed the opportunity to go through the process of collation. And so if they still think that they disagree, they are at liberty. But for us as New Patriotic Party, we think that we are being law obedient, and we will go through the process and place our demands where it is required. There is time for everything. When we have to do other actions, the party would not depart from that. So yes, we think that what happened in all these places, I mean, the election took place in all the 276 constituencies across the 40,648 polling stations. Why is it that in these particular polling stations, the NDC sent people to disrupt the process of collation? Why? And I'm telling you, they knew that the numbers are not in their favor. That is why they will go every length to disrupt the process of collation. In 2004, in a constituency in Bono region, then Pru constituency, Dr. Kojo overturned the results from Pru because the NDC agents pulled together all their pin sheets and made the point that the results as declared by the returning officer was not accurate. The results were collated again in Sunyani, the regional capital then. And Dr. Kojo overturned the results based on the results on the pin sheet.
So your pink sheets are telling you are winning all of these constituencies you talk about.
Definitely.
Okay. All right. I'm grateful to you for joining us here. Thanks to you, Evans Demako and Godwin Eduji Tamaklo. This has been Top Story, brought to you always by Telecel and Holy Insecticide Spray and Coil. Up next is Newsnight.
It's the season for joy, laughter, and endless connections. With Telecel fixed broadband, you get 150% bonus data on your monthly bundle when you subscribe to our Too Much Christmas offer for just 150 Ghana cedis. Experience the magic of uninterrupted internet this festive season, perfect for all the things you love to do online. Yes, 150% bonus data for only 150 Ghana cedis. Dial *900# or visit the Telecel Play app or web to subscribe now and experience a holiday powered by Telecel's unmatched fixed broadband data.
Telecel, connecting energies.
Couldn't sleep at night. Mosquitoes will be whining my ears, bugging me all night long. Till I got a remedy. Now I'll be spraying them away with holy insecticide spray. I go spray them away with holy insecticide spray. When I sleep, Madonna, with holy insecticide spray.
Holy mosquito Mitoquel Holy Multi-Purpose Insecticide Spray. Ghana Kron Kron. For bulk purchase, call 0302 681582. This advert is FDA approved.
What if we told you that your next adventure is just a tap away? That's right. With Republic Bank Visa Credit Card, it's your time to win a staycation at some of Ghana's luxury beach resorts, 5-course dinner, a full-day spa service, or the ultimate, an all-expense paid trip to Dubai, the city of gold. Every tap brings you closer to winning in the Tap Win and Fly with Republic Bank promo. Whether it's Infinite, Adishi, or Classic Credit Card, just keep tapping to win. New customers are welcome. This promo is regulated by the National Lottery Authority on the Caritas Lottery platform. Terms and conditions apply. Republic Bank, we're the one for you.
Hello, good evening, and welcome to Newsnight.
Tonight, NDC minority in Parliament serves notice they will fight any government business that will impose financial commitment on incoming John Mahama administration as they blow lead on plans by government to spend 140 million euros on ships.
They are proposing to buy ships worth 140 million euros at this time. Mr. Speaker, if it is extremely important for the state, allow the new government to commit them.
We have details as Majority Leader sends out a passionate appeal to NDC MPs to support some government businesses in Parliament, including the push to approve more than 300 million worth of tax waivers.
In the spirit of setting novel precedents to guide tomorrow, I want to encourage my colleagues to cooperate with government to do this key government business.
Also coming up, President-elect John Dramani Mahama demands probe into circumstances leading to the possession of illegal ballot papers by some individuals.
So until we solve that, the security printers must come together and make sure that if they don't want to lose business, then this thing must stop because it undermines the electoral process.
We have details as they ask security agencies and companies responsible for printing ballot papers to implement stringent measures to prevent such acts. Also coming up, government's transition team calls John Mahama's team bluff, insisting no agreement has been reached for government to submit all ongoing significant payments and recruitments to join transition team for consideration.
And you say, after Marinia, now we're so no Modia Manyo, Sunday room say, Obi Pentem Gidi, Akojans and Trofu any Makabi Biatromo, said they are my.
And in business?
President-elect John Mahama admit delays in tackling energy-related challenges could lead to the collapse of the sector.
And in sports, the 2024 CAF Awards is underway in Morocco with Ghana's Abdul Aziz Issa in contention for the Best Goal of the Year award. We'll bring you details shortly.
All that plus your views and comments all here on Newsnight. Send me a WhatsApp 05511119997. We start in Parliament where the NDC is set to block all ongoing businesses in the House. And you know, it has been a protracted stalemate in the House. MPs today returned to work for the first time after the general elections that delivered an emphatic victory for their side. Now, today's sitting had barely started before the incoming majority side started flexing its muscles, serving notice they will block any government business that will impose a financial commitment on the incoming John Mahama administration. Now, the decision of the minority follows revelations today that government is planning to spend 140 million euros on ships. Now, listen to Minority Leader Dr. Kesela Tofose.
That before us, they are proposing to buy ships worth 140 million euros at this time. Mr. Speaker, it is very wrong for a government that is leaving office in 3 weeks, to commit 140 million euros. Mr. Speaker, if it is extremely important for the state, allow the new government to commit them.
Parliamentary correspondent Kweku Asante is with me in the studio. Kweku, we're learning a bit more about these ships. The defense minister himself was on the floor today, giving us some clarity.
Well, yes, Evans, according to Dominic Nitiwo, the IMF has approved that government should get a loan of 140 million euros to actually do this, and it appears on the other paper. And this is a contract agreement between the government of the Republic of Ghana, represented by the Defense Ministry, and OCEA Shipbuilding France, for an amount of 140 million euros for the acquisition of 2 offshore patrol vessels. He says these are critical business, but if the NDC MPs insist that John Dramani Mahama should come and negotiate that, he is willing to take his hands off that.
The IMF to agree only simply means that there must be special reasons why the IMF will agree for Ghana to take a commercial loan. And he knows that it was the IMF itself that had to agree to open up the space for Ghana to be able to take this, because Ghana does not have aircraft and ship. Doesn't have aircraft and ship for our military. I don't have a problem with the next administration dealing with it. But when there is an opportunity to do it and you don't do it, that is up to them to be able to do it. I don't have a problem at all. And I just told him that at all, that we don't have a problem. I am saying that you have opportunity to purchase 2 ships from France for the Ghana Navy. If you think that you cannot do it now, Mr. Speaker, you wait and do it when the government comes. We don't have that problem. The new government comes. Nobody has that problem at all. I don't have a problem at all. If the IMF will agree and open for them to borrow next year, I don't have a problem at all with that. And so I will defer to them, Mr. Speaker.
Do we know how this was concluded?
Well,
was the government ready to withdraw and allow this for the next administration to look at?
Well, according to Dominic Nitiwo, this is something that he's willing to drop. There was no conclusion, but the minority insists that this is not something they are going to allow to go through. And this is not just that business that is going to suffer. There is the matter of the tax waivers worth about $350 million is still outstanding. There's also a $250 million loan still outstanding. 2 persons nominated by the president to go onto the Supreme Court. They have inverted. Their report is ready, still outstanding. So Dr. Kessel Atoforsen says all these businesses, they are not going to let them do it because they believe John Dramani Mahama should be afforded the opportunity to look at them and then decide whether these are some things he wants to do.
Right, Honorable Speaker, the tax exemptions before us, if approved, will have a fiscal burden in the next budget. So you are saying that the next government should carry your burden of $350 million? Mr. Speaker, no way. No way. It's not going to happen. Right, Honorable Speaker, as we speak, there is no 2025 budget. Activities before us cannot commit to the 2025 budget. You don't know the priorities of the next government. Look, I reviewed the Hansard before coming here. The Honorable Chairman Mensah is a precedent to me. Okay, it's authority on this matter. In 2016, what he said to us, and it is for that reason why today we were not able to take the loan for Damango water. I brought Damango water before us. They said to us that you cannot commit the next government, and if it is urgent or important, allow the next government to take it. So, Mr. Speaker, issues that will commit this country, as long as our budget is concerned, Mr. Speaker, I beg to say that let us leave it for the next administration to handle. But there are other low-hanging fruits here, like the Environmental Protection Agency bill. We finished the bill. We have left with only the 3rd reading.
Minority Leader Dr. Kessel Atoforsen there. Kweku, I know that the Minority Leader has been getting support from his colleagues. We know that Samuel Okudzeto-Ablakwa is one of them. What is he saying?
Well, according to the North Tongue MP, he in particular is railing against the tax waivers, $350 million worth. He says that will block financial holes for John Dramani Mahama to explore when he wins.
Mr. Speaker, we have stated our position on this matter. And considering the fact that all of these matters have been voted against and rejected by the Ghanaian people. Why is the majority leader still putting it in the business statement and wanting to get us to work on these matters, which are so unpopular? A total list, over 40 tax waivers, Mr. Speaker, and this will have serious fiscal implications for the next government. I mean, why do you want to saddle the next government with these huge revenue losses when you have been roundly rejected at the polls? This is a government talking about coming to cut down obnoxious and nuisance taxes, and then you are creating more fiscal liabilities for us. So, Mr. Speaker, we want to serve notice that these tax waivers, we are not going to support them.
Well, Kweku, we're all getting used to the fact that we have new government, and we'll settle in. We'll settle in shortly. But then let's talk about Dr. Matthew Prempeh. This is the first time since the NPP's defeat that he has been seen in public speaking about issues on the floor.
Yes.
Tell us more.
According to the 2024 NPP running mates, he understands that the NDC have won. They've gotten a mandate from the people. But the government still have business to do. And if the NDC insists that nothing should be done, then they should only consider the budget and then simply close shop and go home.
Just to get up and say that Ghanaians have totally rejected MPP and all his bills and all his encumbrances is a very, very unfair statement, Mr. Speaker. It's a very, very unfair statement in the sense that there are other things that have been programmed that I think that we shouldn't even bother to do. Why should we at this time take up any bill, whether it is environmental bill or social bill? I think the new government then should come and start, because we are resetting. And I agree, Ghanaians voted for resetting. So, Mr. Speaker, the only thing we have to do is to take the vote on account and close shop. We should not continue with any business here, because like Honorable Kojo said, and rightly so, Ghanaians have voted for the resetting agenda of Nkukon Kiti. If it is not worth doing, it's not worth doing.
Prempeh there. Well, we know that the minority leader took a different stance this time on the floor. He took a begging approach.
Yes.
Quite surprising.
Yes, the majority leader, Alexander Afenyo-Markin, has been appealing for his NDC colleagues to support this. And then there's the Speaker of Parliament making an intervention, insisting that a lot of the businesses that the government side want to push through now will not be done. And that he himself has outlined some businesses that he believes are priority. So whilst Afenyo-Markin is begging, the Speaker of Parliament says he has decided on what key business they have to do.
In the spirit of continuity in governance, in the spirit of setting a certain novel precedence to guide tomorrow, I want to encourage my colleagues to cooperate with government to do this key government business. For instance, Mr. Speaker, my respected colleague Ablakwa of Norton stated that the incoming government intends to reduce taxes and deal with obnoxious the tax regime we have, according to him. If that were to be so, why will this same incoming government reject the 1D, 1F, which is giving an incentive? Because we don't want too many imposition of taxes on corporate Ghana. What this is doing is to take away the taxes. You say that you are going to repeal taxes. We are giving an incentive. You say no.
I captured in my statement, sequence them so that we can handle them, because I thought the number one priority is the expenditure in advance of appropriation. In fact, I was told that we will start it today. I'm aware that a request was also made for the Public Accounts Committee reports because of the nature of those reports. And so I captured those things for our consideration. Beyond that not for the determination of the 8th Parliament. Then the 9th Parliament will come to continue if the new government considers it necessary to proceed with. So let's take to this agenda and let's get some business done, please.
Let's get a bit more on this. I want to bring in Alex Tete. He is a second deputy majority whip. Also joining me, Samuel Kojo Blackwell is the MP for North Tongue. Thank you, gentlemen, for the time here on Newsnight. Alex, do you agree with the speaker there that let's settle on some of the businesses, not all, and so you can proceed to conclude the business of this particular parliament and allow the next parliament to deal with the rest?
Thank you very much. Let me say hi to your listeners. And like you rightly said, most of our leaders, Matthew Puku Prempeh, other members of parliament have expressed their view. It was about a business statement that the leader of the house presented to the house. And a lot of members expressed their views and their concern. And the speaker finally ruled on what we are expected to do for these 4 or 5 days. That's from today up to Friday. And even speaker suggested that we should do it up to Saturday, looking at the time and the nature of business that we need to do. But like we said, we cannot do all, businesses, or we cannot do all what has been programmed in the other paper. And I want the minority side to actually help the government to transform this business, because this government term will end on the 6th of January. And like you rightly said, are we in need of this particular base, like the EPA, the Ghana Boundary Commission, the 1D1F? NDC is saying that they are coming to reduce taxes. And we are also saying we want to give incentive to companies who are willing to come and actually establish businesses in Ghana. If NDC is preventing us for presenting these papers, then what I would say is that we should leave it for them. Then equally, it's not important for us to pass, vote on accounts for them to use in January, February, March. If this is what they want us to do.
I almost hear you say that you either do the business as you already have outlined, or you don't do anything at all.
That's what I'm saying. If they are saying that what the majority leader has presented to the House is not important, then we should leave it. We should actually adjourn the House immediately. And when they come back on the 7th January, then they can do their budget on accounts and other things. And we see who going to get money to pay Ghanaians. So this is what they want us to do.
Let me pull that to Samuel Kojo Blackwell. Mr. Blackwell, do you accept that?
Well, good evening, Evans. It is important to emphasize that the Ghanaian people have voted to reset Ghana. They have voted for change. They have rejected state capture, where a few crony companies are selected and given tax waivers. These tax waivers will amount to a whopping, a colossal $350 million. Why do you want to saddle the incoming government with this huge fiscal burden on crony companies? Nobody knows the criteria for selection. Look, if there is any tax handle intervention which has to be done, it is the tax reprieve for the ordinary Ghanaian, for the masses. Why is this government keeping e-levy, keeping betting tax, keeping emission tax, keeping COVID levy? We are the only country in the world still paying a COVID levy, long after the WHO declared COVID no longer a pandemic. We are saying that instead of giving these tax waivers to crony companies, nepotistic companies, why don't you rather consider the masses? Unfortunately, Baumia came around, agreed with President-elect Mahama during the campaign that e-levy and some of these obnoxious, totally nuisance taxes ought to go. So why is it that in the business statement today, when you have an opportunity to bring us along and build consensus, you are rather focusing on those who have the financial muscle to pay? They should pay their fair share. In any case, what has changed? When President Akufo-Addo delivered his first State of the Nation address, he condemned tax waivers, criticized them, and said that tax waivers are not good for the economy. So what has changed? So there is absolutely no way we are going to agree to these tax waivers for 46 selected crony companies that will create a deep hole of over $350 million. You know what $350 million can do? We have made manifesto pledges. We are talking about the Women's Development Bank. We are talking about the no fee stress, no admission fees for first year university students. We are talking about re-equipping our hospitals. The last time we did a national re-equipping program for our hospitals was more than 10 years ago. That $350 million can help us to address our manifesto pledges, including compensating the victims of the spillage by the VRA from their Kosovo upon dam.
Well, the majority side, they have a condition for you. They say, yeah, they will consider what you're demanding, but if you only also forgo anything else you had planned to do, including the expenditure and advance of appropriation for January to March, are you willing? Is this a fair compromise for you?
That cannot be fair. That is the height of irresponsibility. What they are saying, in effect, means that they don't want Ghanaian workers to be paid in January, February, and March. That is what they are saying. And why do you want to use Ghanaian workers as human shield? Because you want to create a tax waiver regime for crony companies. I mean, these people are still not learning. They are refusing to learn. This is why you suffered the most humiliating political defeat in the history of our country. And they still won't learn. It's incredible. It's mind-boggling. Why do you want Ghanaian workers to suffer, not to be paid, just because of a few crony companies? Why?
But they've explained, I mean, this matter has been protracted. It's been in Parliament for a very long time, more than a year. It's the same subject that many had suggested led to the removal of the former chair of the Finance Committee. And the government had explained that it's for economic reasons, that these businesses need the tax waiver so they can expand and employ more people. It's all in the interest of growing the economy. You don't buy that argument?
We don't buy it because the government's track record is totally at variance with those claims. How can you be implementing 1D1F and yet unemployment worsens? Unemployment has shot up from 8% in 2016 to 14.7% as we speak. If you read the latest Afrobarometer, it says 41% of Ghanaians are worried about their unemployment. Read the latest Afrobarometer. So, in the name of 1D1F, giving these tax waivers to crony companies, we have not seen a revival of industries. As I speak to you, I am member of parliament for a constituency whose industries have all collapsed under this government. Japan Textiles has collapsed. For several months, workers are at home. The factory is shut. Aveime Right has collapsed under a regime that claims to be carrying out 1D1F and industrializing this country. It's all a sham. It's a big joke. It's a scam. And that is why the Ghanaian people roundly rejected them. So we are not falling for these claims. It is just another create, loot, and share scheme. Let us get our crony companies off the hook. They import whatever they want. Look, do you know that they gave tax waivers to cronies, in-laws of the president who said they were coming to do hotels, the Puma Hotel scandal? Nothing has happened to it. The hotels were not built. Those monies are gone. Where is the monies given to those people who said they were coming to build a sky train? Look, we have lost so much money because of all of these corrupt state capture schemes. And we are not going to allow this hemorrhage to continue. And they have to get it. Look, if we allow them, we will be complicit. And the way the Ghanaian voter is angry, we don't want to suffer a similar fate in the next election. So as for these tax waivers, they will not receive our support.
But the tax
over
waivers,
$350 million. We are not supporting it.
The tax waivers aren't the only business on the table. They are also considering $140 million euros worth of ships for the Ghana Navy. You objected to that too. Why?
Absolutely. We object to this because this was smuggled in. The speaker announced today that he didn't even know about it. He doesn't know how it found its way on the order paper. It's a last-minute procurement gig once again. We don't know what value for money has been done. There's no value for money report. We have been asking for it. There's been no due diligence. And look, there's a new government is coming. Why the rush? Why the rush to engage in this huge procurement? Meanwhile, there is established in this parliament, the Parliament of the Republic of Ghana, that in between elections and swearing in, You don't commit the next government to major policy decisions. It's the Che Mensah Bonsu doctrine. It's the Akufo-Addo doctrine. Read our Hansard of 2000, of 2008, of 2016. Do you know that even the RTI, President Mahama was about to assent to it. They said, no, hold on. There's a new president coming. So allow that president to bring his new leadership, new mandate to bear. So why is it that the same principles which they established, suddenly they are departing from it and they want to saddle the new government with all of these things? We don't know the company. We don't know what went into. And it's a huge, over 140 million euros.
Let me bring in Mr. Tete. Mr. Tete, so you've said on the floor today, your side, that if the minority side won't do business on some of the other items on the list, including the tax waivers and the ships you wanted to buy for the Navy, then you're not also ready to do business around the expenditure on advance of appropriation for January to March, which in essence will mean some workers won't be paid. Kojo Balaka's point is that it's not fair to the Ghanaian worker because you'll be punishing the Ghanaian worker because of selfish interest, he alleges, over the tax waivers. Hello, Mr. Tete.
If Abroka is saying that today the majority side is refusing to actually give them a hand in passing the vote on account, if we can recall, on these same items that has been lined up in our, business statement today, we recall the House for twice. NDC didn't allow us to work for this particular vote on account. Today, Abroka, my friend, is saying that we are not being fair to Ghanaian workers. Rather, they are the one who are denying the payment of Ghanaian workers in January, February, March, because we came purposely to do business, and they deny us through their action and inaction that they formed majority then, and the speaker actually ruled on it that we should house needly.
Well, it says now that they are ready to consider that because obviously it has to.
They should tone down. I want you to ask Abroka that in 2016, after the election, didn't he do any business in education? He was there as an education minister. Didn't he sign any paper there?
No, they haven't said that don't do any business.
So
their point is that if it has to do with a significant financial commitment, then hold off until the new administration considers it properly, and then they can do it. Considering the economic, circumstances that we all know they will have to deal with in 2025, isn't that a fair ask?
Then they ask anything so that Ghanaians will know the answer, because we came to actually deal with these particular items, and they refuse in twice that we appear in the House. So our broker shouldn't come and say we are giving tax exemption to their cronies. Their members are in the finance committee. It's not only the MPP members that in finance committee. They also have their members there, and once they have agreed that we should give the tax exemption to these particular companies, if we want to tag any party that has collapsed a lot of government or companies in Ghana, it's an NDC, it's not an MPP. So please, this will allow us to build consensus and come together that we work on these particular items.
All of them, you're not willing to
shelf? We cannot finish all of the items that are said. And like Napo and another, defense minister has said that he is not worried. If IMF, we have conditionalities that attach to this IMF. And if IMF have allowed us to borrow on commercial market or something to actually purchase this particular ship for the navies, and the broker and co are saying that they will not allow. The Minister of Defense is saying that for him, he doesn't have any cause to worry. The only thing that if IMF will allow us from next year to actually go in for this particular facility, then fine.
Okay. Gentlemen, thank you very much. And that there is Alex Tete. He's the second deputy majority whip. Samuel Kojo Balaka is MP North Tong. In the middle of this is the major subject of the expenditure and advance of appropriation for January to March. The government needs to have this approved. Other than that, workers will struggle to get their pay for March for January to March, which is now at the heart of this controversy in the House. And the majority side have already said on the floor that, well, you better consider the other items on the list, or that will also suffer. I want to hear from you if you're a worker. Send me a WhatsApp, 055-11-11997. And Fostina, whilst we talk about this, the subject of what to consider and what not to consider, the transition team is also deliberating on that same subject.
Indeed.
With some conflict now emerging over what they constitute and consider as significant financial commitments.
Indeed, Evans, because cracks are beginning to emerge within the joint transition team, with the government side fighting off claims by the incoming NDC administration team that there has been an agreement to submit all significant payments and recruitments to the joint team for consideration. Well, the John Mahama team last week indicated they agreed at their second meeting that such activities must be submitted to the transition team for consideration on case-by-case basis. Well, spokesperson for the incoming government side, Felix Ofosukwache, flagged the planned payment of 240 million Ghana cedis to an entity that had conducted business with the Electricity Company of Ghana.
You mentioned the concerns we raised at the last sitting regarding the last-minute appointments and mass recruitments and some payments that we find troubling, given its likely implications for our fiscal position. We were given some commitments last Wednesday on those matters. We were told that, first of all, there will be proper deliberation on them today. So we expect that the true picture will be painted and that we will be given access to critical information concerning these recruitments and payments. We were also told that in order to resolve the issues comprehensively, a committee will be set up to look into them in a manner that is thorough and the manner that brings out all the facts. So we expect that those commitments will be met today as the first item. And then any other business that may come up to will be dealt with.
What do you make of those who say that because the president, was set in 2016 by the then incoming NPP government, so the NDC side also wants to take the opportunity to pay
there's a reason why there are precedents. And you have mentioned the precedent. Why is the present administration unable to abide by their own precedents? I think that they should abide by the precedent because it's a precedent that makes sense. It is only fair that when elections are over and a new president is elected, his team is given the opportunity to understand the exact situation of the country. So all major decisions regarding recruitments, payments, what have you, should be held on to and should only be made with the express consent of the incoming administration, so that when we take office, we know exactly what situation we are walking into. The last thing we want is to be blindsided, only to walk into a situation where we are ambushed with all manner of demands and payments and people who have been recruited. Because we will be working with these people in any event. So we should have a hand in their recruitment. And any payments that are made that would exact a toll on the national purse must be done with us in the know. And we expect nothing short of that.
Okay.
But speaking on sister station Adum FM, spokesperson for government side Fatima Abubakar said no agreement was reached with the president-elect's team.
Unim say a budget in November of 2023, as in the 2024 budget.
Yes.
Every ministry, agency, and Obia on allocation or budget. But what you say? Say you no goods and services, so say any capex so or on a budget over mid-year. Adjustments are necessary for more crown or man to add additional commitments and answer money to the budget too. Or more adjustments say baby are here resources and you move it to other places within the budget in 2023 no November no for the 2024 budget year. Me pacho budget no obi ohono ma mandate e no the processes no afen na adwuma wo ye no asipi se so otuaka. For instance, entire capacity as a ministry, and say now you procure 40 state-of-the-art LED vans. Emma, your friend is saying, information services department, not the district, no. Ebenya dia juma bra. If you are fear sasye, ebra would benya commencement warrant. Ebra would procurement documents, beko PPA. Akwa chesia kopem se ubenya approval.
That is Fatima Abubakar. Just a brief interpretation of what she's saying there. She's saying that every ministry, department and agency, they have their allocations in the budget, whether it is goods and services. She also goes on to say that with this budget prepared for 2024, everyone have different mandates and they have been taxed and assigned to them, and payment for that is due. She goes on to say that with the information the ministry has, they have planned to procure 40 LED TVs for Information Services Department to facilitate their work.
So there's controversy right now as we approach the handover to the new administration, the transition process over what can government or what should government do and what they shouldn't do as far as financial commitments are concerned. I want to bring in Dr. John Osai-Krapon, is the director of the Democracy Project at the Center for Democratic Development. Doc, thanks for time here on Newsnight. What was the best practice here? This controversy that has erupted both in Parliament. The minority side say do not commit the incoming administration to significant financial payment. We've seen that also now playing out at the transition, the joint transition team, dividing opinions there. What is the best practice around the world?
For me, the best practice will be both sides, incoming government and outgoing government, to find a way to come up with a healthy compromise. The process of governance cannot stop because we've had an election. The president, the current government, still do have a mandate to continue in office until the new president is sworn in on January 7th, which means that it has an obligation to do the things that governments need to do. At the same time, there is an in-government government who would have to bear the brunt of whatever decisions are taken over the next 3 weeks before the new government is sworn in. So it also does make sense that the incoming administration would make the request to say, on some of these things for which we will be saddled with either implementing or executing, it would be good to have a say and come to some compromise about it. And I think that should be what should guide the two sides, right? Maybe coming up with some list of key priorities, determining what the threshold for significant financial commitment is, and find a way to work through those differences. It's a balancing act, but it's a balancing act that requires leadership, that requires trust, and that requires compromise to do.
But on the specific subject, though, of what they now term the significant financial commitments, the income administration, they have a point, don't they? Considering where the economy is right now, they want to be sure that they want to foot that bill because they will carry the burden. Even if it's Parliament approves it today, they will have to make the payment.
Correct, I agree. And so that is why, for me, there has to be some further conversations around what is deemed significant financial commitment, right? So, for example, set some parameters in the negotiations and coming up with a compromise. You can set some parameters around the threshold for a significant financial commitment. So maybe if it's 1 million, maybe that's too much. Maybe if it's 500,000, that is bearable, because you're right. The new administration would have to bear the brunt of what those commitments will be and the implications that it would have on the budget and the fiscal space that the new administration would have to be able to accommodate these financial commitments. So the incoming administration does have a point. The question is, both sides would have to find a way of setting some parameters around what they mean by a significant financial commitment and what the incoming administration can accommodate should the outgoing administration make those commitments.
Dr. John Osai Kwapon, a director at the Democracy Project at CDD, thank you very much. Still ahead.
President-elect John Dramani Mahama calls for investigations into circumstances leading to the possession of illegal ballot papers by some individuals.
The security printers must come together and make sure that if they don't want to lose business, then this thing must stop because it undermines the electoral process.
We have details after business, and George Riafi joins me. George, what should we expect?
Well, coming up in business, President-elect John Mahama admits delays in tackling energy-related challenges could lead to the collapse of the sector, and former Minister of Finance Atepe downplays negative impact of investor reaction to the planned renegotiation of the IMF program. The business news on Newsnight is brought to you by MTN Business. Welcome to the new world of business. Kingdom Books and Stationery Center Stanks and Pepsodent Herbal and Charcoal.
Kweku at his spunky new office to congratulate him on opening his business. And man, was I impressed. The business is just moving quick. The sales, customers, everything is just working seamlessly. The secret? He said,
it's MTN Business Broadband. In this fast-paced environment, we need fast and reliable internet to support all business types. No laggy online meetings, great download and upload speeds, impeccable business management systems, all inclusive. I mean, you can have it all.
Shout! I signed on immediately.
To enable your business stay ahead and stay connected, make sure you're signed on to the best internet made just for businesses. MTN Business Broadband. Sign up today on broadband.mtn.com.gh and manage your account on my MTN app. Call 0244 308 111 for more information. We are good together everywhere you go.
Hooray! The Kingdom Books and Stationery Limited is organizing its end-of-year furniture promotional sales from the 15th of November to the 31st of December this year. Kingdom Books and Stationery is giving away a whopping 10 to 15% discount on all furniture at our furniture shops. Head office, Akweje, Osu near the Osu Cemetery, Tema, Comte 4, Takrady, opposite Fijai Maze Plaza, Cape Coast, University Bookshop, Spintex Road near Absa Bank, Atomic, Centerpoint Mall, Winneba, University Campus, KNUSD, the University Bookshop, Santasi in Kumasi. You can also visit and shop online at www.kingdomstoreonline.com. Hurry while stock lasts. For further inquiries, contact us on 050-162-0810 or 0302-764101 or email us at info@kingdomgh.com. Kingdom Books and Stationery Limited, where quality and affordability is assured. Terms and conditions apply.
Dear Chatwo, a son say a busuan from Quintino. You can't say ye Pepsodent, you didn't also a canyamane home.
Hey, wohu, we could hear wo, no he wole, was shre, nana no ne, whatever.
Hey, Ampo, Omudinda so, Ingamenae, and Hefana Yasi dear.
Once so bet to me to ding out to Pepsodent to Busia Park no so, but we Busia would buy more who do, for we need to rest to a bear will not come to Pepsodent to Busia Park. FDA, check the incarto yaptumu.
When you hear that sound, it can only mean one thing. It's the sound of excitement, the sound of milky goodness. It's the unmistakable sound of rich, creamy deliciousness. The sound that lets you know that the original milky richness awaits. The milky richness you can find in every bite of Munchie Milk Shortcake.
With its unique blend of milky richness and carefully selected ingredients, Munchie Milk Shortcake is crafted from an original age-old recipe to delight your taste buds. If you're looking for pure satisfaction and the authentic taste of original milky richness, it's time to grab a pack of your favorite biscuit, Munchie Milk Shortcake today.
This advert is FDA approved.
Welcome back to Business on Newsnight. Now, President-elect John Mahama has admitted that delays in dealing with the energy-related challenges could lead to the collapse of the sector. Now, this coming on the back of rising debt, the sector which has reached more than $2 billion. Imani Ghana, in a recent letter, has also warned that if the government doesn't move quickly to address these challenges, it could take us back to the era of irregular power supply. But speaking on the network, that is the Global South Network, the President noted that these reforms are needed right now.
Supplying about a little over 60% of our gas needs for electricity generation. We need to push that up to 100%, because if we push that up to 100%, we'll be saving almost $400 million a year. $400 million a year. And so that's something that we need to look at. Unfortunately, this government has messed the whole chain, the whole value chain in the energy sector up. And so again, for the gas that is being taken, they're not paying for it. And so because of that, ENI has reduced the volumes that it's pumping. We set up the ENI project with a World Bank guarantee. You believe that the guarantee has been drawn down for non-payments until it's left with just $50 million. If ENI draws down on the $50 million, it means we would incur another default with the World Bank. And so it's a very precarious situation that needs to be dealt with as quickly as possible.
President-elect John Mahama, now former Minister of Finance Tekpe, has downplayed any negative investor response to the planned renegotiation of the IMF program by the incoming government. Now, there are fears that the economy could be hit badly if the incoming government goes ahead with this move. But Mr. Tekpe disagrees.
We are doing things that would rather be attractive.
So it was word off.
To those. Yes, we're doing things that will be attractive to those who gave us a loan in the past. And because we stopped the repayment mechanism, we are doing things that will tell, the country that we need not have borrowed so much for COVID, buffers. And when you do that, that is what countries do to win themselves. That is how countries learn to manage their crisis, and they are not always returning to the IMF. You go there only when...
So I get from you that this renegotiation will be done in a way that it won't send any bad signal to these donors and investors, or they'll be brought on board or engage them.
No, the donors, not at all. The donors, right, the lenders, and the rest. After all, if you are going to take off, the first sovereign bond as we did, you go and you convince them in the market that you have good intentions.
Former Minister of Finance, Seth Tekpe. Now, industries have revealed that they've started feeling the impact of the current economic recovery on their operations. It's coming on the back of challenging economic situations. You saw some of the firm scale down their operations. Dr. Humphrey Imdake is president of the Association of Ghana Industries.
You could say that to some extent, because however, the vulnerabilities that could trigger or derail these macro gains are still real. And that is why I trim in the subject matter of the debt position of the economy, of the country, and the IPPs in particular, the independent power producers can pull the plugs, and that derails your power position, and that could give you significant challenges. So those are part of the vulnerabilities within the system, and therefore, as much as we're chucking and moving in gradually, backed up with the IMF programs, there's some extent of certainties. But the trigger there, beyond all this that I've captured, is also the exchange rate factor. The exchange rate factor derails predictions and projections. I say this because of the bi-weekly exchange rate policy that we run at the port.
Humphrey Imdake is president of the Association of Ghana Industries. Now, Cosmos Energy has been given up to January 9 next year to formalize its intention to take over Tullow Oil. Now, it's coming after Tullow Oil, and the statement confirmed that it's been some initial talks between their outfit and Cosmos Energy to acquire all their shares. But Tullow in the statement maintained that this should be done in accordance with the takeover rules. That is, Cosmos Energy will now have up to the end of next month to actually finalize everything. Meanwhile, energy analyst Yusuf Suleimana says this move, if it comes out, will go a long way to bring some good fortunes for the energy industry.
Yeah, so it's an important moment that we have to wait and see how it pans out. For me, I look at it both ways, both positive and negative. The positive aspect of it is the fact that, of course, Tullow is clearly struggling. And for the fact that, the MD is stepping down. The MD stepped down some time ago, Tullow Ghana, and then the group CEO has also stepped down. So that leaves a lot of leadership vacuum, and they need to search for competent people to be able to replace that. We don't really have much time for that. I mean, the company is almost 50% owned by Cosmos and Tullow. If Cosmos can acquire the shares, I think it's rather going to be positive for the entirety of the company, and it will give it a forward-looking, especially the kind of huge share that Tullow is holding within the Jubilee and then the 10 fields. And then if they should stay without a chief strategist, I think it will impact the whole entirety. So if you look at it that way, I think we should look at it as within that should be a positive light.
Energy analyst Yusuf Suleimana there. And that's all for business on News Night.
Thank you, George, for bringing us business. It's time now for sport, and Musbao joins me in the studio. Musbao, what should we expect?
Well, there's a big event happening in Morocco at the moment. It's the 2024 CAF Awards. Has started with some awards being given out. A few that have been handed out is the Women's National Team of the Year, and that went to Nigeria following their impressive performance in the this year's competitions that they participated in. For the men's, it went to Ivory Coast after they clinched the AFCON title, but some Ghanaian interest there is Abdul Aziz Issa because he's been nominated alongside some 9 other players for the Goal of the Year award, and that award will be handed out later. But the big award that a lot of people are looking forward to is the CAF Men's Player of the Year, and quite a number, about 5 players are in contention for that award. We have a wrap of the nominees for you in this report.
Simon Adingra played a key role in Cote d'Ivoire's AFCON victory, scoring a crucial equalizer in the quarterfinals and assisting 2 goals in the final, while also shining for Brighton in the Premier League. Sehu Grassi scored 28 Bundesliga goals, breaking Stuttgart's record in a single season, and continued his impressive form at Borussia Dortmund, while also showing up for Guinea at key moments. Ashraf Hakimi helped PSG secure a 3rd consecutive Ligue 1 title and a French Cup triumph, while also earning a bronze medal with Morocco at the Paris Olympics. Ademola Lookman, who is considered a favorite for the award, led Atalanta to their first major trophy in 61 years, scoring a memorable hat-trick in the Europa League final, and was a standout performer for Nigeria, who finished 2nd at the AFCON. Ronwen Williams captained South Africa to bronze at the AFCON, saving penalties in crucial shootouts, and was instrumental in Mamelodi Sundowns' record-breaking 7th consecutive league title win.
That's a report by my colleague Karim Abdul Benin there. Well, some just 2 awards that have also been handed out is the Young Player of the Year woman, Doha El Madani of Morocco picked that up, and for the men's Young Player of the Year went to Lamine Camara of Senegal. So Evans, that's it. Hopefully by tomorrow we'll bring you some update on the other awardees.
Thank you, Musbao. Now, away from sports, for years, the communities of Pelikope, Dusiakope, and Wodopo have shared the same burden: no access to safe drinking water. With the nearest source often miles away, residents have suffered, sometimes from waterborne diseases. Well, hope has finally flowed into these villages. My colleague Michael Ashali has the rest of the story.
In Pelikope, Volta region, residents walk for hours, not for clean water, but for any water at all. Moses Akpovi, a resident of the Pelikope community for over 30 years, recounts how search for water often takes them miles away, sometimes spanning 3 neighboring communities.
We dig a well here about 27 years ago now. So we are fetching the water in the well knocked down.
The local assemblyman, Sachi Neiram, overwhelmed and running out of options, struggled to gain a response from government officials despite his relentless appeals.
I give it to MP, but nothing has shown.
About 20 kilometers away, Dusiakope mirrors the struggles of Pelikope.
The former source of water that we normally use, we get a lot of diseases from it.
Farther north, the small farming community of Fudopo struggles as well. Millicent's children sometimes miss school because of the long trek to the nearest stream, a situation she fears could permanently derail their education.
By the time they return from the stream, it's already time for break.
Residents of Pelikope, Dosiakope, and Wodokpo finally have clean water close to home thanks to the Rotary Clubs of Accra West and Telok, with support from Meaningful Life International.
For Joy News, Michael Ashale.
Away from that, President-elect John Dramani Mahama is calling for investigations into the circumstances leading to the possession of illegal ballot papers by unauthorized persons. Speaking during a visit by members of some minority political parties, he urged security agencies and companies responsible for the printing to implement stringent measures to prevent such acts, which he says undermine the integrity of the electoral process. During last week's election, there were reports of individual arrests by the police for allegedly being in possession of a large number of thumb-printed ballot papers.
I think that even though the electoral process is not perfect, there's a responsibility on political parties to make sure that we use the levers that the election gives us to be able to police the poll. But we must also do a postmortem and see what went wrong. There are still issues of ballot paper printing and ballot paper stuffing, because in many cases we found people with EC ballot papers, genuine ballot papers, and the question is we must investigate how do they get these ballot papers, who prints them for them, who gives these ballot papers to these people, how do they get the plate of the Electoral Commission to be able to print ballot papers. We believe in local capacity to print. But if we're going to print and always have a situation where duplicates of the ballot papers leak and give the people the opportunity to stuff the ballot, then we might look at printing those ballot papers outside and bringing them. So until we solve that, the security printers must come together and make sure that if they don't want to lose business, then this thing must stop, because it undermines the electoral process. Aside from that, we must get the issue of pink sheets right. You know, how we can all fill the same pink sheets at the polling station, and then we come to collation center, and then the party is holding a different pink sheet, Electoral Commission is holding different pink sheets. It shouldn't happen. And so, in a few cases, it still means that some of the electoral officers, you know, are willing to be induced to be able to switch pink sheets or alter figures and all that. There's a case where alternate pink sheets came from Electoral Commission, and instead of being the other duplicate, they were not carbonated, written in pen. You know, these are all things that we need to look at and see how we can correct the electoral process so that tomorrow it does not create a problem for us.
On constitutional reforms, John Mahama announced plans to revisit the work of the Constitutional Review Committee. He intends to hold a national validation conference to reassess flagged issues and make necessary changes.
Again, it has served us well, and I still believe it's one of the best constitutions any African country can have. But after using it for several years, we realized that there are a few parts that we need to tweak so that it can serve us for even further generations to come. Okay. And so one of the things that I intend to do is to hold a national validation conference where we would bring all stakeholders in a form of consultative assembly. The legal people will know how to phrase it so that we can move it forward. Now what we want to do is to bring the Constitutional Review report back to this validation conference. There might be things that we flagged that we wanted to amend that might not be necessary again this time. And then by the new things that we didn't really take notice of, that will become important for us to include in the review. I mean, for instance, if you take the impasse between Parliament and the judiciary, nobody anticipated that a situation like this would arise. But once it's arisen, we must clearly state what the mandate of the Speaker is.
And that is John Mahama talking there about the plans that he has once he takes over in January. But he's also been talking about hampers, you know. Hampers, apparently, there's a direct correlation between the number of hampers you get and your ability to win or lose an election.
Interesting. So I'm wondering how many hampers Katie Hammond will get.
It looks like 0. if he calculated from the last elections when he won, he possibly would be in the negative. Yeah. But you also need to ask, there's also Baumia, how many hampers he will get now compared to what he used to get in the past.
I'm wondering, Napo as well. First time we've seen him. Will he get any at all?
Nah. Well, listen to John Mahama. You understand why this is such a big deal. For the politicians. And maybe why next time you need to fight 2-0 to win an election.
16. The Christmas hampers stop coming. There are many people who used to come to my gate and come and try to get in just to see me for a minute, stop coming. It was only my siblings, my family, my closest friends and others, my church members who continue to stand closely to me. So for me, these trappings of power don't get to my head. I know that all the praises and blessings you'll be showered with by people are temporary. It's because of that word attached to your name, president. One day it will go and you'll be with those who are. When I lost in 2016, the Christmas hampers stopped coming.
Yeah, Christmas hampers will stop coming.
Yeah, I'm hoping I get some, even though I didn't contest for the election.
If you want more, run.
Please.
Enjoy the rest of your evening, people. My name is Mensah.
And I'm Fostina. Sarfo. Good evening.